back to another episode of the Engine Shed. It's been a while since my last video, and my apologies for that. I've been pretty busy with life in general, so of course the trains don't take a priority when things like that go down. But anyway, I'm back, and I've just come back from the Brisbane Model Train Show. So as of making this video, it's the 6th of May. Went there this morning to have a look, and it was a good turnout. It was a really good turnout of most of the time. Probably not as good as the previous years, but still some quality stuff to see and quality people to talk to. And one of the people, or the peoples I should say, that I was very happy to meet were the team at Wuiske Models. And today I've got something very different to what I'm conventionally usually doing, which is mostly British outline rolling stock and locomotives. Today I'm going to focus on something homegrown. The channel is of course based in Queensland in Australia, so when I saw these models I actually thought, wow, I've got to have these are cool. And I was not disappointed. The guys at Wuiske were very knowledgeable, they were very helpful. They told me everything about the models, and I was impressed that they were able to produce such a quality model for the price. So I managed to pick a couple up, and I'm going to do a review of them today. So the locomotive I'm going to do a review for you guys today is, of course, well, as the description would provide, the 1720 class locomotive. This is sort of like the workhorse in the Queensland Railways arsenal. It's been around since the 1960s. It's a much loved favourite of many rail fans in Queensland. Still active today. You know, they sort of mishmash with other class of locomotives, and you can still see them operating all sorts of freight services on the main lines today. Now, the distinct difference between these locomotives, these locomotives and say something like a British locomotive, is the scale, and indeed the gauge. Now in Queensland's got one of the largest narrow gauge main lines in the world. So as opposed to standard gauge, which is 4 foot 8.5, Queensland Railways utilises a 3 foot 6 inch gauge railway, and it served the state well. It does make for complications when trying to do interstate. New South Wales in Australia uses standard gauge, Queensland does not. So there are headaches with trying to interoperate between the two, but you know what, they worked around that for years and years and years, so if it works, don't fix it, But anyway, a particular example I've got to show you today is in fact the Bicentennial Locomotive. So the Bicentennial in Australia was in 1988, and this was a special commemorative livery applied to, I believe, 2 locomotives only, which was this particular example here and another class of locomotive. So I saw this, I fell in love with the livery, picked one up, and reasonably priced as well, considering this is such a sort of, I would say, bespoke sort of niche model. For $295, considering what you're getting, considering what I've seen anyway, looks like it's pretty good value for money so far anyway. So anyway, let's crack open the box and see what we get. And this is the first time I've opened the box, by the way. The models I saw on display at the train show convinced me enough to buy it, but of course not everyone can make the train show. Not everyone in fact can make it to a local hobby store. A lot of the time people buy stuff online and hope that it's as good as it says it is. So we're going to find out. So anyway, first impressions are pretty good. The packaging is quite smart. These quality HO models have been Wuiske models and Haskell, and the usual jargon. So if you want more information, you can check out wuiskemodels.com. I'll put a link in the description. So far so good. Packaging's nice and clean. It's simple, does what it needs to do. Black and yellow, that really nicely pops. So this is I've got to be honest, this is better packaging straight away than what you get from Hornby or Bachmann. So lid just pops off the top. Whoa, big ice cube. Okay. Very nice. Top marks Mr. Wuiske and crew for the packaging. Really good. Okay, the one thing I will say straight away is, I've got pretty big hands, but look at that. That model's being dwarfed by that cube of ice that it is, or the shipping, or the packaging I should say, that it is currently in. So, wow, this thing's not as big as I first thought. And to be fair, it never was going to be. I didn't anticipate it would be, but got to try something different every now and then, I suppose, haven't you? Okay, so plastic sleeve. This is typical of most manufacturers now. They just use a plastic sleeve and an ice cube. Pull tab. So far so good. Very impressed with the very impressed with the packaging. Sort of like that special wrapping paper. Oh wow. Let me just put this to one side. Okay, I've got to be honest straight up. This is a beautiful locomotive. Something just popped off then. Oh no. Okay, so the stepladder just popped off. Okay, so caution, ladies and gentlemen, these locomotives are very detailed. You have to be very careful. Okay, so that's not too bad. I can just quickly glue that back on, but yeah, wow, very fragile. So, you know, as always, take care with your locomotives. That's just come out of the packaging like that, so maybe my fat fingers broke it off, not sure. It's not the end of the world. We can always reattach it. I'm almost afraid to touch this now. It seems too detailed. Anyway, first impressions is really detailed, really very nicely detailed locomotive. The livery is stunning. Check that out. Look at that livery. So that's the Queensland Railways Bicentennial livery. Very smart looking little locomotive. The front, the handrails are so fine, and KD couplers. Very nicely done, Mr. Wuiske. Very nicely done. It's always good to see KD couplers come factory because, you know, being a British model railroader, you get those nasty tension lock couplings and they just cause more headaches than they deserve. So, any chance I get, I destroy all tension lock couplings where and however possible. Man, look at the bogey. Okay, I will point this out. I've got to get a screwdriver. I can't touch this with my hands. Look at the detail on the bogies. That is stunning. Okay, so it is quite weighty too. It's, I'd say, about 250 grams at least. It appears to be all-wheel drive and all-wheel pickup. And what's also very nice is they've also made provisions for a sound decoder. I'm not sure how you'd fit a lock sound decoder in there. I'd say the speaker goes in here and you'd have to sort of sandwich a decoder up in the top vents here. It looks like there's a bit of space in there. So we'll crack this open and see what sort of internals, but the guys at Wuiske said it's a 5-pole motor, which is always good news straight away. But yeah, very nice. Very nice. One thing I will point out is though, when I open the packaging, no instructions. That's a bit of a down, especially for people who aren't familiar with the locomotive. I guess we're just going to have to wing it and see how we open this sucker up, but yeah, not too good to see that there's no instructions in the box. I'm not sure if they have them up on their website. I'll check and let you guys know in the description. But anyway, so of course, when you're trying to crack a locomotive open, locomotive cradle or foam cradle, this one's definitely had its better days, but still does the job. Oh, wow. So detailed. So very nicely detailed. Even the handrails. Beautiful. The cow catchers underneath, damn. Got to be on 10 out of 10 for detail on this locomotive. Absolutely stunning. The livery is beautiful. So all we've got left to see is how we install a decoder and how well it performs. And of course, before I crack this open, I didn't just buy one of these. No. I bought two. And this particular example is the blue version. So the blue version is the more modern contemporary of that 1720 class. This particular version has got the nose on the front and the very smart classic Queensland Railways blue livery. Absolutely beautiful. The wasps on the front. Otherwise, exact same DNA as the first one. It's got a 5-pole motor for all-wheel drive pickups. Same amount of beautiful detail, if not a little bit more. This one's got handrails on the side. The Bicentennial one does not. So yeah, top marks, Mr. Wuiske. Well done. Anyway, we'll crack open the Bicentennial and see how easy it is to put a decoder in it. So as of course I said before, you always want to handle your locomotives with care. It's just unfortunate that ladder broke off, but it looks like there's a little knob there to glue it back on, so that's good. Without instructions, it's going to be a bit of a task trying to figure out how to open these up. So there's two screws here, a screw here and a screw here. I don't think those are holding in the chassis. I think those are holding in the KD, so I don't think those are the screws we're going to need. Oh, okay, alright, okay, yep. Right. Alright, so there's two screws here. We've got one screw here and one screw on the opposite diagonal side, on either side of the speaker enclosure. So we're going to have to see if we can try and take off the bogie just to access that screw. So I'll just put it in the cradle. Very gently, just with a screwdriver. It looks like these just pop off. And they do. Okay, that was easy. So they just pop off like that. And there's a little screw right here. That'd be fantastic if there's only two screws. I hope there's no more screws, but we'll find out. Also, one other thing, if you're ever pulling a locomotive apart, tweezers always are your best friend in this situation. So that's one long screw. We'll do the same on this side. Gently. Okay, that one was a little bit harder to get off. Just make sure there's no damage. No, okay, we're all good. Thank Christ for that. Alright, same again on this side. Just a little screw here. Okay, that's number two. I think that's all. There's only two screws. Wow. Okay. That'll be good. Okay. The sound enclosure is a little bit loose. I don't know if that's deliberate or that's just because it's just clicked on, but doesn't seem to be affecting any of the performance. Okay. Oh, it's a tight fit. Very gently pull these apart, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to. Oh, there we go, pop. Okay. Rightio. So that's the internals of a Wuiske model 1720 class. Very good if you could see it. I'll just move the camera, hang on. Alrighty. Okay, so let's revise. First thing you need to do, there's two screws on opposite diagonal corners of the locomotive. We've got one here and one on the opposite side. You will need to pull these off. They just pop off. There's little nubs on the side there. Pretty easy just to pull them off. Just very gently pry them off with a little screwdriver or some tweezers or something like that. It looks like they just pop on, so that's really good. A little bit of glue. So far so good. Two screws, which is really good. So we've got an 8-pin socket in here, and it's definitely a 5-pole motor, I can tell you that much. Let's just pry this little socket off. Gently. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's as I thought. There's not really a great deal of space, especially if it's in with the cab, but we've got room up here for a decoder, so we'll try and make that work. It looks like the internals, very small PCB, 5-pole motor. what else we've got. Oh, sorry, pause. People are coming and going. But yeah, so far so good. So it looks like it's got 2 brass flywheels, a centre mounted centre 5-pole motor, and it's all-wheel drive. It's got all-wheel pickups as well, so that's really good to see. Really pleased by that. Okay, so Decoder. Now, the Decoder I'm using, I've just got a couple of these lying around, and I will say I highly recommend these little things, is these. So this is a Gauge Master Omni Decoder, so this is either a 21 pin or an 8 pin. Because it's an 8 pin, we'll have to use the 8 pin socket. But these are great little decoders. I believe they're made by DCC Concepts. I'm not 100% sure. A lot of manufacturers usually sub that responsibility out to somebody else, but nevertheless, quality little decoders, far superior to anything that Hornby makes. Anyway, probably not as good as your lock pilots or your lock sound decoders, but considering what we're using it for, this will be more than sufficient. Now, as I said, because there's no manual, I'm not 100% sure where pin 1 is. Hopefully if the PCB is wired properly, it won't matter, but normally I'd put the first pin here. So I'm assuming the first pin goes here. So that's the orange wire. So let's see what happens. Just push it into place. And somehow we've got to figure out how to... Okay. Okay, so that's not too bad. There seems to be enough room in there for this decoder anyway, so I'm just going to slot it into the roof like that. And hope for the best. Hopefully it stays in position. Oh. Alright. So now we've got to carefully, ever so carefully, put this back on. It is quite a tight fit. Probably a good thing as well. Okay, easy peasy. Plenty of room. Plenty of room, so that's good. So installing a decoder in this is actually really easy. So props would have been a bit easier if we had instructions, but as I said, there's probably some online. I'll double check. And this is why we use tweezers. Because I've got such big fingers, I need tweezers. Okay. Okay, so that one's in. Just only ever want to firmly do up these. You never want to over torque them, because if you do, you'll strip the head off and then the body is just going to sit loose on the thing. Because this is quite a tight fitting model, it's probably not going to be too much of a big deal, but never ever want that to happen. Same again on this side. I'll just get away with this one. Okay, nicely torqued down. Right. Let's take it out of the cradle. I flip the cradle over for things like this because you want a flat surface but a soft surface. So it appears they go back on like this. And they do. Make sure nothing's popped out of place. And the bogey's still center. Good, good. So careful with the detail. You know, I absolutely admire the detail on these locomotives, but I also get so worried so many times that I can't run them because the detail's just going to snap off. Same again on this side. Okay, snap, and we're done. So you have it, the Bicentennial 1720 class has now been DCC decoded. How good's that? Alright, I'll just put it on the rolling road and we'll see how it goes. I'll be back in a second. Alright, welcome back to the rolling road. We've got the locomotive on the rolling road. The mechanism seems very smooth. Of course, it is just out of the box. So it needs to do a run in before I can really be super critical of that. But So far so good. The Loco is running quite smoothly. There's no body wobble as such, so all the wheels are properly aligned. Is always a good thing. Nothing worse than getting a locomotive. Steam locomotives are pretty typical of that. Get it out of the box and they wobble left and right because the wheels aren't perfectly aligned. But smooth as silk so far. The mechanism's a little bit noisy, but you know what, because it's on a rolling road, that is always going to be exaggerated. So at about 50% it starts making a bit of a moaning noise, but when the gear's bed in, I suspect that's going to disappear. Okay, nice touch. We've got the running number lit up, which is very nice. There's any tail lights operating, which is a bit strange. I'm not sure what the Jarvis that is. So that usually indicates to me that the decoder's probably plugged in the wrong way, but if that was the case, the lights wouldn't work at all. So I'm not too sure what's going on there. I'll do a bit more homework and get back to you on that one, but you know what? Considering it's out of the box and there's no instructions, I'm pretty happy with that. Instructions, of course, would make everything far better for everybody who buys one of these. So yeah, overall detail, 10 out of 10. Performance, I can't really give you a full thing, but so far, you know, usually out of the box you can tell whether these are going to perform well or not. Very smooth, there's no rocking or wobbling on the rolling road, which is usually, well, there is a little bit now, I should say. But you know what, camera's going to pick that up and exaggerate that a bit. So yeah, guys, if you're ever interested in something different like this, especially to my Australian viewers and you're living in Queensland or even down south or across, Wuiske models. First impressions are nothing but fantastic. It was a real shame that there was no instruction manual, but you know what, given the fact that these were only just released according to the guys from Wuiske the other day, it's hardly surprising that not everything was included. But you know what, all things considered, this is still a good 8 out of 10 experience for me. I've had worse experiences with top line Hornby locomotives that have just not performed as well as they probably should have. But yeah, apart from the little trying to figure out what's going on with the functions and whatnot, everything looks pretty good. The detail looks good, all the levers, and that light is fantastic. And of course the blue variant that I showed you before performs exactly the same. Exactly the same internals, exactly the same method of installing a DCC decoder in that particular model. But anyway, I'll leave you with some running shots of the locomotives. Hopefully you enjoyed my review. As always, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment. For more information, of course, check out Wuiske Models website. I will leave a link in the description. $295, I thought that was an absolute steal, and I'm not disappointed. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you in the next one. See you later.